You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lain. Gardening, it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week, talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. Autumn, it's just before Thanksgiving, and things are feeling beautiful in the mountains of Arizona. This is God's country. I don't care what time of year, what season. This is the place to be. It is so nice. I'm having quite a few customers coming in, and the pine trees have just thrived this year. So we went from drought a year or two ago into they had moisture. They had last year's winter moisture. They had the spring's growth. They just grew. If you cared for your pine trees, natives or ornamentals are, you planted it there. Natives are, you built your house around it. No matter the conifer, the pine tree, they thrived. Now, here's the question that people keep asking. It seems like my ponderosa pines are dropping more needles than usual. Are you seeing that elsewhere? Yeah. My pinyon pine trees have more debris coming down. My junipers have more, my conifers, the evergreen plants are dropping more litter, more needles, more pine cones, more this year than past. And let me explain what's going on. So what happens is when a spruce tree, a fir tree, an Arizona cypress, when an evergreen conifer elongates in spring, you get one growth out of this a year. So it elongates in spring, and they put on a lot of growth this year. So now that those needles they've matured, they've thickened, they've got this nice waxy coat to them, they got a deep, rich green or blue color to them. They're happy. Then what happens? They start to put another band of ring on, another band of wood, ring of wood onto that tree. So the tree physically gets bigger on the branches and on the trunk itself. After that, the bark actually gets thicker. And so with all this new growth, so the new candle growth, the new branches have elongated. So now that this year's growth is now shading last year's old growth. So the inside of this plant doesn't get as much sunlight as it used to. Now it's put on an extra band of wood. And so now the tree's gotten larger. The bark has gotten thicker. And so the needles that were tapped into that live tissue underneath, they've actually feeding off the structure, the roots, the nutrients coming up from the roots. They are now being pushed out. The needles, the bark is actually pushing some of those needles out. And so to have this autumn season, this natural growth, dropping the old growth, encouraging the new growth, this is what's going on. It's getting more shaded. It needs sun. The days have gotten shorter. So it's going, oh, okay. I don't have enough sunlight to keep all the foliage going. Not only that, but it can't get to the nutrients that are coming up from the roots because the bark has gotten thicker. It's just the inside of a pine tree never has pine needles. And that's the reason why, because the bark, it makes it more drought hardy. So that thicker bark insulates it from the cold of winter, makes it more, keeps it off the dryness. So it keeps it from perspiring, keeps the bark from getting cold or hot in summer. So it's a natural part of a pine tree, a conifer's DNA. But when the plants are stressed, they don't put on a lot of growth. They don't have a lot of bark growth. They don't have a lot of tree ring growth. They're very narrow. So things are in hibernation. They're like just struggling to stay alive. This year, they didn't struggle. So if you see more pine needles dropping on your yard, on your deck, on your car, than maybe last year, the year before, 2020, 21, 22, the years past, then that's the reason why this year was the plants thrived. It's a good thing. It actually helps the plant defensively keep bark beetle and flathead borer and tip borers, the insects that feed naturally off of their favorite food is a pine tree, a An Arizona cypress has tip borers. So it naturally keeps those plants from getting bugs because it's growing so fast. The nutrients are flowing up and down that tree because they're healthy. They can defend themselves. It's when trees are stressed, when plants themselves, when people are stressed, they're more prone to be sick or have issues. Well, same with trees that are out there. So it's actually a good thing. A lot of folks are sending me texts, email, Facebook posts. They're going, oh my gosh, I see a brown needle. Should I be worried? I just planted this, a year ago. But no, not to worry. You're okay. It's a natural part of that cycle. I would say too, as the needles drop, you can clean some of those up. A rookie mistake I find people make: needles drop and they like pristine rock going right up next to the trunk of the plant. They don't want any litter coming in. No leaves, no needles, no pine cones, no. So they rake all these things up. A healthy plant, a juniper, let's say alligator juniper or a pinyon pine, they like to protect themselves. It's a natural defensive thing the plants do. They're actually trying to bury anything that tries to grow underneath their drip line. The outer branch, from the trunk to the outer branch, is called the drip line. And so plants will naturally throw off some of these needles to two things. It keeps other seed from coming up in their root zone. They're protecting their space. They don't want to compete with any water or food in this area. This is all for me. Make sure nothing else can grow here. And as those needles kind of give you a duff or a layer of mulch, or it keeps that root structure from drying out, keeps it cool in summer, keeps it warm in winter. So it's a natural thing for plants to throw off some needles, not all of them, especially on the inside of the plant is natural. On the outer side or the top of the tree, if those are going brown, you might have something else going on. That's going to be gophers and grubs, and it's in a hard pan that just can't breathe. You're watering too much. These are all things that, if the needles are browning on the outside coming in, not healthy. On the inside of the tree, throwing off a few branches, perfectly natural. Don't worry. Fertilize now. The plant will actually pick up that nutrients and you'll get a whole nother set of growth next spring. Your most important feeding of the entire year is now, especially for evergreens. So they're going to use this food to form the candle growth, the elongation of that next year's growth is going to be done with this year's this plant food you put down right now is so important. Same for fruit trees. The fruit tree will pick up the food now and form next spring's leaf bud and flower buds. So your fruit next year, the amount of fruit you get is dependent on how much fertilizer you give it right now. So super critical, and you need an organic, granular food. Stay away from that liquid Miracle-Gro junk. It goes through the food, through the ground so quickly the plant can't pick it up. It needs granular foods. Stay away from those chemical fertilizers. You're going to put that turf builder on there, this chemical-based fertilizer, going to burn off your worms, the good things that are in the soil. It'll help form next spring's bud, but you're doing damage while you're doing good for the plant. So organic foods help feed the plant, and it doesn't get rid of or shoo off or scare away all your worms, mycorrhizal colonies, all the good things that are happening in the soil. And you're not going to poison yourself. Chemical fertilizers, they're easily picked up and thrown into the groundwater, into your well water, and you folks on wells, please, for the love of gardening, use organic fertilizers, plant foods. We make our own here. They're for us. They're much safer for your pets, for the birds, and for you. And you'll have more worms and stuff. So I'd say don't stress out if you see some pine needles dropping. It's normal. It's this time of year. It always seems to happen. Enjoy the autumn colors as leaves drop and needles drop. Keep some of those needles down there. It helps to insulate the plant. A little bit is good. A lot, maybe clean some of that up. Water's garden companion plants for November are flowering pear, English ivy, camellias, and Vanderwolf pine.
Vanderwolf is related to Arizona pines with fluffy foliage,
It's remarkably resilient in dry Arizona soils.
makes a graceful specimen in yards or expansive estate landscapes.
This distinctive pine has long, twisted, silver blue needles covering the dense branches.
Carefree and easy to grow.
Shop by store or online at watersgardencenter.com. For a more fruitful garden, increase success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit watersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Waters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.